Hello and welcome to a brand new episode brought to you on the Four-Eyed Radio Network. If you want to see more shows, check out foureyedradio.com, Sorry about that.
This Four-Eyed Radio production is brought to you by America Joy Print Shop. All your printing needs taken care of in one convenient place. Visit americajoy.com for business cards, flyers, banners, decals, car wraps, and more. Visit americajoy.com.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a wonderful episode of Appropriately Inappropriate. I am Nancy, and across from me is...
Kevin.
Kevin, what's up?
What's up, everybody?
Right.
I'm drunk, but the fucked up thing is I still look stoned, and our guest this evening, she comes up, and we'll introduce her in a second, but we got to do some call to orders and whatever, but she comes up to us, she's like, hey, Nancy, oh my God, I haven't seen you in so long, I'm going to hug you and grab your ass and flick your vagina.
It's my girl.
And then she's like, she turns and looks at me, and she's like, you are so high. I'm like, fuck, it's just the way I look. My eyelids are heavy. So much, in fact, that I picked my son up from school yesterday, and as we're leaving the school, one of the teachers, mind you, turns to me and looks at me as we're walking out and says, I totally feel you, man. I wish I was there with you. I'm like, what? She goes, you know, and she makes a little fucking stupid sign as she's smoking weed to her mouth in the school.
Your son is in good hands.
Clearly. Yeah. Can't wait to pull him out of that one. I'm like, I don't smoke. You just gave yourself up, you fucking asshole. I'm blessed with these good looks of heavy eyelids. It's fucking awful. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, but to go off your story, I think there's a lot of people, maybe a group, a tight-knit group, that love you for it. They're like, hey, he's our homie.
The drug community.
Yeah. He's high.
Druggies and health nuts are exactly the same. They grow their own shit. They wake up early in the morning, and they push everything on you to try and become one of them. They're the same people.
And vegetarians as well.
Yeah, dude, you should try this.
So, hold on.
Gluten-free.
Don't talk yet.
Yeah,
Don't
you're
talk
right.
yet, because you have the craziest, coolest voice.
She's our special guest.
Okay. First of all, this Thursday, December 19th, before then, when you listen to this, Stop By Fitness Experience, you all know they're a sponsor of the show, and they're the coolest fucking gym in the world. I'm back at it. I'm killing it. I'm fucking still fat, but I'm going to be thin eventually. But they're doing like this toy drive and food drive, so please stop by there, drop off any non-perishable foods, canned foods, and toys for the kids. Please do that. I back it 100,000,000% because anytime you can help out the less fortunate, it's the greatest thing in the world and the greatest feeling in the world, besides being a parent, because that's cool as shit
selfish,
too.
besides being selfish.
Or being high.
Or stoned, right.
Those are so deceiving. Feelings are
It's not really
great.
for the kids. The toys are actually for him. Everything else might be for the kids.
Yeah, dude, just
Give him
bring
food, he's high
fucking
as
food.
fuck, and he wants to play with toys.
And like toys, man, and I'll just fucking play and eat and shit. Video games.
Cars. He's into cars.
Spicoli. So, please do that. And also, well, we're recording this Thursday night, but we're on Socially Awkward tomorrow night,
Yeah.
which will come out before this episode comes out. Crazy how it works.
Just in case you haven't had enough of us.
Yeah, if you haven't had enough of us, which I know you have, then listen to Socially Awkward. We'll post a link on the Facebook page and Twitter and everything else at AppInPod on Twitter and Facebook.com/ AppInPod.
Girl.
You don't have to burp in between.
No, that's how you get onto the site. You have to burp first and app and pod.
Okay,
Gross.
enough about us. We have no bullshit, the coolest guest ever in the world.
Eva. I love it.
Not
Sorry.
ever.
We were supposed to record this 2 hours ago, but we had more technical difficulties because we're fucking morons when it comes to this shit.
It was actually a narcissistic urge that the guest had to charge her cell phone, which disarmed the entire radio podcast Progress.
So foreign.
Yeah, dude.
Who is she?
So introduce our guest, because she's your friend.
Okay, not only is she my friend, she's one of my she is my best friend. She's my first best friend ever. Her nickname for me and my nickname for her are the same. It's Pants, and you'll find out why in a few minutes. But my girl Justine is here in the house with us. She's a world traveler. She's from South Africa.
Nelson Mandela.
Which untimely, we did not do this on
I
purpose.
feel like this was a setup.
Just happens that we have an African in the house. Girl, take it away.
And she's white as fuck, man. I thought our first African.
I could not be white.
She's white and Jewish.
White and
Everyone's in
Jewish.
good hands.
Doesn't get any whiter than that if you're white and Jewish.
I know,
Except
no one believes it.
unless you're
All
me.
I feel good, man. We're outnumbering anybody in this bitch right now.
Always me.
Hallelujah. Oh, that's crazy.
No, it's all
Fuck,
about
man.
the minorities. I feel like I've got the minorities.
Whatever. I'm
cornered.
That's sister
such an
act.
idiot.
Yeah, that was what?
I'm retired
So
from
first of all,
Judaism.
thank you so much for coming.
absolute
And second of
pleasure.
all,
Thank you.
first and foremost, I'm sure you want to mention Nelson Mandela.
Of course, as a South African American now with dual citizenship, I have to say that it was very, very hard watching all of that trauma from so very far away, because it still hits home really, really hard. And an amazing, amazing man, an absolute hero, a personal hero. He changed the face of South Africa forever, and always, that will always be something that we can look at, and hopefully we just grow and there's not more drama in the homeland. It's a beautiful place, and hopefully they figure out how to move forward. Unfortunately, the current president didn't exactly do a fantastic job of selling our nation, but Barack Obama was there, and he at least saved the day of the ceremony. So
With a
I can
selfie.
say that's
A selfie.
But Nelson Mandela, he was 95, right?
He was a little bit older than that.
Really?
Don't quote me. He was old.
Something around, I think it was 95, but that's like, you know, your dog gets to be 14 years old, and you're like, shit, he's going to go any day.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start preparing for a new dog. Are they preparing for like a new Mandela?
No, there will never be another Mandela. Like, he is just a man that stands on his own
You
as
could-
a
you
human
could be.
being.
You could be.
You could line him up like next to Gandhi. He's that kind of a hero. But the presidents that have followed him have been abhorrent and embarrassing and have not really done anything.
Much like
other than-
America since Clinton.
See,
Sorry,
we
we're not
understood
political.
what
We're
what
not
she was
political. I'm
saying,
out.
we would X what she's saying. But
Yeah.
since we don't understand it, we're like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, that's politics. Rule
Well,
one
we
of
don't do
appropriately
politics.
inappropriate.
What I
Politics.
know is just that he, regardless if he's a president or a world leader or a vision of pillar of hope or whatever, he was a great man. And there won't be another man who is quite as great ever, regardless if he's in a political position or not. So let's politics out, but just great guy,
Good.
And referring to his age, I will say, without trying to give away my age, 31, that I was 8 years old watching the television the day that he was released from prison. And I
Wow.
remember it like it was yesterday. And I lived in Invictus. And when I watched the movie, I was like, haha, I remember those things happening to
No
me.
shit.
Yeah, it was like my life. And so growing up in like the midst of the end of the apartheid era was a crazy time. And I have a lot of respect for pretty much everything that man did.
Okay, so this is cool. Like, normally our show is complete bullshit. We talk about ridiculous topics and tell jokes and try and make people laugh, but I think this is more of a lot of our listeners have no idea what it's like in South Africa, and it just happens to be at the right time. We have someone in our studio right now, born in South Africa
Born and raised.
and raised in South Africa. Nelson Mandela just passes away. Rest in peace. But it's a world and a life that I think we're so disconnected from as shitty Americans that
You know what? I have so many stories that would really significantly say like what you're talking about, how like shitty Americanism. Not that I think Americans are shitty, but
not
like,
because you're one of us now.
well, exactly. I have dual citizenship, so it's okay. I'm like kind of American, but you know what? I think that I remember certain things happening when I first moved here, and that's when Nancy and I actually met. And I remember a guy who was like one of these bros at the sorority. What are they? Fraternities here.
Dude, it was me.
A dude bro, okay? It was a dude bro with with spiky hair and gel and things.
He was playing I Never.
I never. And,
You want to come see my room? I have Sega Dreamcast.
you know what? I wish it was like that. It actually turned out that he
Soul
thought
Calibur.
I was so foreign that he
Love
tried
it.
to take me to the mall blindfolded because he was convinced that I'd never seen a mall before. He actually asked me what it was like.
blindfolded you?
Oh, yeah, no, he thought it was the best thing he was ever
After
going
the
to show me.
GHB and you woke up?
You know what? It was what it was. I believe his name was Morgan, which is a name that like South Africans don't have. So I was like, who is this man?
It's also
Americans
a
don't
name
have
that
it either.
most
Morgan,
male
like, what is that?
Americans
I don't know.
don't have.
But
Sounds
the
like
guy,
a
he took me
rapist.
to, he probably was. He took me to the mall and he was like, how exciting is this? Oh my God, a pivotal moment in your life. I was like, I come from the central business district of Johannesburg, which is very advanced.
Yeah.
And I've seen plenty of mall. Thank you, though. But where the fuck is the food court? So I will eat some Panda Express now that I'm here. It was quite a moving moment for me. But I have had many Americans say, so like, where are you? Oh my God, where are you from? And then I say South Africa, and they go, oh my God, that's like so cool. Like, where in America? Where in South
And why
America
aren't
are
you
you from?
black?
And then they ask me which of my parents is black, and I say none. And then they say, you're Jewish? And I go, kind of. No, completely. And then they are flabbergasted. So it's interesting.
I know of the only... So, to me, I don't know much about South Africa. But what I do know is this is stupid, and it's going to make me sound like an asshole and an idiot, naive piece of shit,
okay.
Which is what I sound like when I talk about any topic. I know of South Africa from golfers,
Yes.
and from their Little League teams in the Little League World Series, and that they're all white.
So, obviously, death of Nelson Mandela would bring us into this apartheid discussion, which we're going to keep quite light because it was quite a terrible, terrible tragedy what went
Sure.
on. But basically, the more fortunate minority were the white folk, and they were split into two kinds, and some of them were of Dutch descent, and some of them were of possibly Lithuanian Jew descent, and they landed up there, and they were the more fortunate class. And then there was a massive majority of black people, which are, politically correct or not, I don't want to call them African Americans
They're
because
not,
they're
'cause
just
they're not
not.
from
They're just
America.
Africans, okay?
Yeah.
And so these people were treated terribly, in my opinion, by a lot of the political white figures and thrown into nothing dissimilar to what World War II looked like for the Jews. And the white people kind of took over and treated them exceptionally badly. And that's the bottom line.
Did what white people
And so
do.
when you see the golfers, those golfers were extremely privileged individuals who went to the best schools, and they weren't only given privy to the best schools, they were also like not having to deal with anybody who was less fortunate because those people were like in a gulag, basically, or they call them townships. You can watch that movie, what was it, with the aliens and the district?
Men in Black.
Something, no. District 9?
Yeah, you're right.
So basically that movie, I don't know if you know that, was like essentially a parody, but it wasn't funny, of like what it was like. White people were like, okay, the black people are aliens, we're going to shove them in these townships and treat them like they're bad, revolting people.
Wow.
And that was
Interesting.
what Peter Jackson did there.
That's
It was
crazy.
a reversal. But that was the reality before Nelson Mandela sat in prison for 27 years and then walked free and allowed black people to vote for the first time. And obviously because they're the majority and now they can vote, they were like, oh, we want that guy.
Yeah, Barack
and
Obama.
So, yeah, but a little bit different. But the next thing, at 70 years old or something, he was the president and he was the guy. And they had a right and they had a chance. And like, I grew up in a house where like my second mum was my nanny and she was black and I stood in that line with her for hours just so she could vote. So when I got my American citizenship, I kind of paid the same respect standing in line to vote for Barack Obama because it's a dignity and a right that everybody should have.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of crazy shit went on, man.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Quiet.
No, it's not. I had a question and I forgot what it was because I was so into the story that you were telling. This is more of an interesting, I think, episode that we'll ever have than funny.
Don't download this episode if you're looking for humor.
Well, it's already downloaded if they're
anyways.
listening.
Do anyways.
Yeah, and tell all your friends.
Like us.
So for us, you have an accent. For you, we have an accent.
No.
No?
Americans have no accent to me. I grew up watching I grew up watching television that was, brought in from Australia and UK and
She's talking about Coca-Cola commercials.
everywhere. But like, my whole life was like, oh, American Pie, and let's watch Friends. And so
that's his favorite movie.
You just sound like TV to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, but what is your accent? Because I think when you think of Africa, it's like it's not what you sound like.
You know what the thing is? I think there's a distinct difference in dialect. I think that's what you're talking about, dialect.
Yeah.
Well, so South Africa.
I'm not smart enough to call it that.
That's all right. I think you're very smart. But basically,
You
the
don't
whole
know me at all.
The whole of South Africa is like so divided, and I was mentioning the kind of groups, but there are about 13 official languages of that country, and people don't know that. And there's English, and then there's Afrikaans, which sounds like Dutch. So if I go to Amsterdam,
Yeah, or
I can.
Afrikaans. Like just
Afrikaans.
African people that are asshole douchebags.
I could tell you some stories about like converting language,
We're
but
here.
basically like the word subject, if you're going to do a subject at school in Afrikaans in South Africa is fuck, like V-A-K. And the word cunt is like choose, so people will be like, kies jou cunt and fuck, which means like choose your subject.
Or say the best you can in Afrikaans, appropriately inappropriate.
It is what it is. But so basically, like the language in itself is a bit weird. But
There
we
you
have
go.
I
first
just be
language.
telling people to choose their subject every day.
Exactly.
what it
You
is.
cunty fuck.
Basically, we have English speakers, we have Afrikaans speakers, which are Dutch, and then there's like 11 official African languages, which are like things like Zulu, Xhosa, Tswana, Swahili.
The gods must be crazy
etc.
part too.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
crazy stuff. So even if you know Swahili or Tswana or Southern Sotho, it's a different dialect for everybody. But I remember being after Nelson Mandela got released and everything, I remember sitting in my school hall assembly and suddenly it was like, okay, the national anthem is no longer Afrikaans and English. We will now be learning a whole new language, which is Zulu, and here you go. And it was Nkosi Sikalele, and none of us could say it because we had to learn how to click.
Man, how many languages do you speak?
I speak English, I speak Afrikaans, I speak a fair amount of Zulu, which I've forgotten clearly because
Yeah.
I've not been there a long time. I speak Papua New Guinea and Elo, but that's my own problem. And I also speak Hebrew because I'm a Jew. So I got some stuff going
I
on.
only roll with Jews.
You know what
Okay,
it is.
so to back this up a little bit, how I met Justine was in 2002. We were sitting in.
We weren't sitting anywhere. You were sitting alone.
Okay, you take
at
it from here.
SCC. No, you go for it, but you were alone first.
I was
until
alone.
I rocked your
'Cause
world.
that's kind of how I am. I roll around alone until it only takes special people. Typically, so far, Jews. I'm only friends with Jews. It's the weirdest shit ever.
We're really good friends.
Yeah,
what
We're
it is.
terrible lovers.
it's a Jew thing.
Hey, you know what? You say what you say. I think it's the reverse for women.
Maybe for women.
Well, we're a bit annoying, the Jewish women, but you know, it is what it is.
That's true.
I can't shake my Jews
That's
off with a
awesome.
stick, but it's the only people I hang with. Anyway, so
Because
I'm
the
sitting.
stick is worth money. We won't let go.
Good point.
I'm sitting by myself.
Cue racist Jew humor.
That's what we do.
Okay, so
So I'm sitting in class, and I believe it was a science class.
it was a geography.
Geology.
Geography. It was geography.
That's how big my brain is. My science is geology.
It was the
Geology or
first-
geography?
No, no, no.
Geography. It was our first
Oh, right,
science
right. Geography
requirement on the
first.
required subject list
So
of things
we're
to
in
do.
school, and this girl, exotic, beautiful girl, comes and sits next to me. I sound like a dude. Anyway, she comes and sits next to me, and I think to myself, wow, this person smells like fucking gasoline, like dangerous amounts of gasoline. I was turned to her, I said, hey.
You didn't. I have to tell you my version. I think
Okay.
we should do it.
Okay,
where,
you
like,
go
You
first.
say your part,
Role
like
play.
what happened in your world, and
I'm
then I'll tell you
thinking
what was
in
happening
my
in
head,
world.
this girl smells like gasoline, and I'm worried, and why? So I turn to her, and I think to myself, in my version, girl, you smell like gasoline. What's going on? And she tells me her story, and she says, I recently moved here from South Africa. I've never pumped my own gas. And I'm thinking to
I believe
myself,
that is not what happened. I believe I quietly mumbled because we were in the back of
and
my
I
first
couldn't
American
understand
class, and I was
anything
terrified.
she was saying.
And I was like,
so I
no,
was
no, no.
translating.
Actually, no, I actually didn't even say gasoline. You know what I said? I said, it's a very confusing story. I quietly, by the way. I actually I've never actually gone to the garage, which is a petrol station in America.
I didn't understand
And I
her.
then
And by
said,
petrol,
For the
she
first
means
6 months of our
gasoline.
lives
I said,
together,
no,
I
I was at the
gas station.
petrol station.
constantly said, what?
Yeah, I was pumping petroleum into my vehicle,
Which is gasoline.
which is gasoline, and I didn't realize how to do that because in South Africa, the Africans do that job for you.
And I'm thinking, you've never pumped your own gas? What the
Yeah.
fuck?
And then
this was before
anyone in New
WTF.
Jersey
So it was
will
like
be
Coming
like,
to
"I
America,
get
the
it."
woman version.
Yeah, totally. But her accent was so
I don't
heavy
pump my own
that
gas.
we
resorted
wrote.
to writing
We
because
wrote.
you didn't understand a thing I said.
And what's so funny is recently I cleaned out my college backpack literally last year.
Moments.
And I found our notes, and they belong in a men's locker room, by
Oh my
the
God,
way.
I bet you.
The
Go
best
on.
shit you've ever heard.
And Nancy and I we were, what, 17, 18 years old at the time.
So tiny.
We were babies. And then I sat there. She actually leaned over quite gently and sniffed me many times before she actually accused me of
How I do.
smelling weird. At which point
How I
she
do.
shot up her hand to my absolute I was mortified. I was like, oh my God, what's she doing? The teacher, I'm going to get kicked out. I just
Professor.
arrived here. Professor, I need to, we just got to go. I'm coming now. And the next thing, she grabbed my hand and dragged me outside into the parking lot, into the sweat of the summery Arizona revoltingness,
Go on.
and handed me a pair of pink corduroy pants out of the trunk of her Boxster Porsche at 18. What were you driving that for? God knows. I was horrified. And
Nancy's very
drug
privileged.
dealer.
super privileged.
And she's bitching about someone pumping your gas.
Exactly, like, do me a favor, right? And then she gave me these pens and said, shame, shame. There was a lot of, like, I feel bad for you, pathetic a little bit, but didn't say those words. She was like, oi. If she was Jewish, she would have said oi. She didn't say oi. She was like, yeah. She gave me these pens, and I put them on, and
It didn't
that was
smell
it.
like gasoline.
That was it. We were, like, best friends forever, and we did every class together.
Everything
To the point that I was like, I know I can get away with doing some Hebrew credits because I can kind of already speak that. Let's go to Mesa Community College, which was only like a 35-minute drive from the college we were attending at that moment.
the Porsche got
And
terrible
she
gas
did it. The Porsche got horrible gas. But I
You're such a cunt, dude. You're
I
such
know.
a fucking
She's the
cunty.
best.
Or whatever.
That girl, she came to Mesa Community College. She'd sit outside my Hebrew classes and wait for me. She was the
Cigarettes
best
in
friend I've
hand.
ever had. She was amazing. And you know what? It
I
just
told you
continued
I
from
wanted to
there.
be Jewish, and I told you when it came to the second language, I was like, I'm out. I'm
Same
out.
here, dude.
I'm gonna get the coffee and sit outside, and maybe light up a
and
cigarette.
coffee you did, and you drank
I'm out.
a lot of coffee there. And I was like, I'm just going to get this credit because my parents actually moved really far across the whole world to give me this opportunity.
mine didn't
so I
move
didn't
at
get
all.
shot in South Africa, so I kind of have to do it.
Ooh, going with that, man.
No.
What brought you? All right, don't
Yes.
talk about anything you don't want to.
Oh, I'll tell you anything you want.
But
Be careful.
what brought you here? I mean, from South Africa. Actually, hold on. Before you answer that,
Backtrack.
because you said you lived around Johannesburg, right?
I lived in Johannesburg.
And
yes.
you lived in Johannesburg.
Mm-hmm.
Because the only thing I have in relevance to that is with comedy. And Chris Rock shot his last special. A third of it was in Johannesburg.
That's right. Wasn't he there though on like a mental stability episode?
Nah, that's Dave Chappelle.
Whatever. Oh my God, I'm so racist. Just kidding, I'm not.
It's okay, she's from Africa.
I'm from
She can
Africa.
say that.
Yeah, nah,
Can I?
yeah, he
I
totally.
don't think I
said.
can. Just kidding.
But so Chris Rock shot a third of his special out in Johannesburg, and to me, I was like, that's kind of crazy because you're the language barrier. But they speak English there,
yes.
so then it's not obviously a barrier at all.
Well, so back in the day, everyone had to learn English. And one of the ways that they actually kept the black people out of knowing anything was forcing them to not speak their own languages, but to learn Afrikaans. And so English and Afrikaans sort of competed for first place as the most important language. But everyone, like, you know how in America, so in some places, say Arizona, you have to learn English at school and you have to have Spanish as your language. So in South Africa, you had to do English and Afrikaans. Those were requirements. If you were like me, and you were at a Jewish school, then you had to do a third language requirement in high school, which was Hebrew. Or you could pick Jewish studies, which was what the dumb kids did. But it is what it is, you know what I'm saying? So you picked your language, but everybody primarily understands English. That's, road signs are in English. It's
Okay.
the country is English.
I'm gonna
speaking.
come off probably very naive and ignorant because
That is okay.
I honestly don't know.
I feel really happy to finally set the record straight. I get asked way too many weird questions about riding elephants to school and like wearing coconuts and leaves,
Yeah.
And like,
Oh,
are there
you
black
should've come
people?
up in your uniform
And,
with
you know,
your
the white people
coconuts
there.
and your
I should have
leaf
worn my
skirt.
like whole like ensemble, like my
Damn it.
closet and stuff.
So, okay.
Jane, fuck
So
that.
what brought you here
So
to Arizona?
So
by
I
the way?
suppose, you know, when you are living in South Africa, it's an isolated place in the bottom of the arse of the pimple of the world or whatever.
A pimple on your ass?
A pimple, think about it, like in logistical geography. It's like a,
syphilis or gonorrhea.
yeah, but think about
Nobody
it, like
has it.
a pimple on the arse of Africa at the bottom of the universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when you get an opportunity, my father, we were lucky enough that we needed to get out of there because the environment was rather unstable because of all, you know, because Nelson Mandela was released and because he was doing so much stuff that was different and innovative in terms of letting African people vote and do things, go to school and speak English for the first time. There was a lot of violence. There was a lot of white on black violence and then a lot of black on white violence. And then, of course, as the situation grew, there was a lot of black on black violence because you'd find the younger generations of black people fighting with each other because some people were still in a mindset that was like, we're oppressed and we're poor. And some people were like, hey, let's make the most of this. We've got an opportunity. So there was a lot of fighting and a lot of bad stuff going on. And through my life, I had way too many amazing friends who were hurt and raped and murdered. And it was very scary. And it got to the point when I was about 17, 18, obviously when I was younger than it, you know, it started, where my parents were terrified and girls couldn't drive cars on their own in the street. And I couldn't do anything. I'm like this 18-year-old person trying to like live a real life and do cool stuff. And, you know, we get our driver's license only at 18 there. We can drink at 16, though, so that's good. Because our parents can take us to the bars, which they did. How weird is that, right?
It's
Come
great.
and pick you
That's
up at 4 in the
actually a
morning.
better idea.
It was a great system.
Start drinking before you drive. That's
And
way
drive your
better.
parents.
And like, so that by the
home.
time you're 18, you're like, okay, I understand that when I get drunk, I'm retarded and I
Yeah.
can't behave like a person. So you don't drive your car, and they're probably
I
less
love
accidents.
that.
So that's the system. But basically, I couldn't drive anywhere on my own at night time. Like, it got dark, and that was it. I'd go home, I'd like have to look out, and then I'd get a phone call. You know, as a Jew, every Friday night around the dinner table, it was like, oh, did you hear this one got killed? Did you hear that one got shot? Did you hear, oh, they broke into this one's house? And it was a drama and a nightmare, and it was terrifying. But, like, at the time, it was just my life.
Did you feel safe, or was it?
I mean, you know, when you live in a place like that, you've grown up in this unstable, scary place that you know that when you go out, you watch your back. You be careful. You lock your doors. You look around you everywhere you go, and that's what it is. Only when you come to America and you can, like, you watch people leave their cars unlocked at the gas station or, like, I don't know, do weird things, like just not have any cognizance of, like, their purse or their finances or their stuff in, like, a shopping cart in the mall. You're like, wow, everyone grew up really different to me. So, yeah, it was weird. So, basically, it was really, really dangerous and really weird. My dad got this cool opportunity to come to America, to Arizona, which at the time was the most mortifying thing for me because I remember arriving at the Sky Harbor International Airport and I was like, we're in America. It's like coming to America, you know. It was like, so exciting. And then we drove through Scottsdale the shitty way, not going on the freeway.
There is no shitty
The
part of
shitty way was up
Scottsdale.
Scottsdale Road, like through Old Town, which everyone thinks is like fun and cute. And I like saw every Western movie I'd ever seen. I used to be like a big Western fan, and I thought that like the wagon wheels and like the tumbleweeds and all this crap was like actually real. I didn't understand that it was like staged to be cute. And I was like, oh my God, where am I? Why am I not in LA or like New York? And like, this is not America for me.
Oh, well,
and I cried.
I will
Why
tell you
did
real
he
quick.
choose LA? Or LA?
Yeah,
Why
no,
did
he
he choose
didn't.
Arizona?
He didn't choose it. He was actually given like an opportunity to come. My dad's an accountant or whatever, you know, at the time he had business then. He was actually given an opportunity by a friend of his that, you know, before that friend immigrated to LA, they had a good connection, whatever, and he wanted to bring my dad out to like do some work over here. So we got lucky enough that we didn't get to pick where to go.
Oh.
What?
Okay, well, I wanted to tell you something funny because
pee again. I always have
so
to
do
piss
I,
every
but you go
goddamn
first,
time.
and I'll tell her my story. You
Oh,
go.
yeah.
You're excused.
Go.
All right. So
Excused.
it's funny that you said when you got here, you drove through Old Town Scottsdale,
Oh,
and
my
you
God.
thought it was staged. Well, let me tell you. Let me counter that.
Oh, I wanna hear it.
Bill, you know Billy, my husband. His father. Okay, let me back this up a little bit. Billy's family, they're all cowboys, cowboys
my.
and Indians. Cowboys, like, they all have horses. They live on horse property. His father was part of the original Arizona Pony Express.
No way.
way.
That's crazy. And in South Africa, we don't have cowboys. You know that. We've never seen one. We don't know what that is.
Not
Like,
Django?
No, bro. Like in South Africa, like an Indian is somebody who has like a dot, not a feather. Like we don't understand that a Native American person is like, you know, there are no Mexican people in South Africa either. That's like a whole new thing. I didn't understand.
Yeah, Indians are not Puerto Ricans with feathers in their hair.
Right, we didn't
They're
understand
Indians.
the stuff. We had black people and white people. That's what we had. And they had 13 different languages, and they all had weird little, like, tribal stuff, like Shaka Zulu and stuff. Like, we didn't do that.
Well, we come here, and there's a little bit of everyone. So, anyways, Billy's dad, my kid's grandpa, was part of the Hash Knife Pony Express.
Whoa.
The real deal.
Like the Wild Bunch, man.
Yes, the Wild Bunch. They rode their horses from wherever to wherever. In
Mesa to Scottsdale.
Yeah, no. It was like Prescott. It was like actually in
Cape Creek stuff, right? Like,
yes, he's from Cape Creek. So Billy's dad was in the Pony Express. Was telling her while you were gone.
Man. Yeah.
So real cowboy, and we went to the Prada del Sol parade a couple years ago. But the kids were really little, and he's part of the Pony Express, and is really cool. And he's on his horse, and he's got his hat and his beard, and he's so leathery and badass.
I love it.
So one of the
Those
horses.
bolo ties are cool.
Oh, the leather shit.
Whatever, I'm into that. I like that.
One of the horses got loose, and it's got this, not from his group, but we were in parade. It was in front of him, and it was carrying this like steel carriage behind it.
Yeah.
So this horse got loose, and it was running wild through Prada del Sol. Someone actually got hurt really bad. Billy's dad jumps off his horse and runs after this horse that was running wild.
Did he rodeo that shit?
He
and, like,
rodeoed
roped him
that
in
shit.
And, like,
no, he
crazy?
did. He railed the horse in and got him tame and got it calmed down. It was
That's
like,
amazing. You know that, like, I've been so fascinated by that for so long, because when I got here, I was so weirded out by it. But actually, this year in August, I took a trip to Montana because I was like, oh, Montana, this is going to be great. Actually, my husband, who's just a delight, but he met this man called, it's his favorite person that he ever met. He was called like C.E. LeMay. And he was some like cowboy with a horse of 16 and a half hands. We met these cowboys, and it was
how tall they are.
They're fascinating individuals with an incredible work ethic. And I really wanted to go on a City Slickers cattle drive because, like, that was my favorite movie. And I wanted a cow like Norman
dude,
when I was a
City
baby. I was like,
Slickers.
oh my God, that Norman cow. He was so cute.
So that brings me back to the original reason I asked you to come on the show is Justine's been on 2 world tours? 2 or 3?
I don't know if we can isolate them into 2 actual numbers, but, like, yeah, there's been moments.
The actual world. She's the only person I've ever met who's been on a world tour.
What does that mean?
It's Nancy's way of saying that I've
Like
traveled a lot because I actually didn't
you're part
go
of the
do
Backstreet
anything. It's
Boys?
not like, exactly, I'm not like a celebrity. I just like to travel. I'm a traveler. But to Nancy, that's a
She'll
world
be hiking
tour,
in
'cause I,
this
like,
state, on
traveled
this
a lot,
date.
you
Come
know?
check her out.
I'm just a traveler. I just like to travel.
But when she went on these world tours, my questions are this. Like, what was the craziest thing you've seen? And she told me
Oh my God! What did I tell you at the time?
the Ganges River.
Me with my pants
Oh,
down.
yeah, the Ganges River is very nasty.
Arizona.
India was crazy. Ashrams in India were crazy. Delhi Belly was crazy. But maybe I thought it was crazy because I was like delusional from like the food that made me ill. So perhaps that's not the best actual. I've got favorite places.
Okay,
I mean,
go with that.
my favorite place probably Nepal. Like, I like the, something about Mary Nepali coin story, because people are like, you've actually been there. But yes, Kathmandu is actually one of the coolest places. I really like Indonesia. I lived in a bunch of different places there.
Yeah, hold on, stop there. So we went out for drinks and dinner, and you said you've lived in 42 different countries.
Yeah, something
So
like that.
not just like stop by, hey, what's up, New York, I'm out. Like you've lived in 42 different countries.
I've been blessed enough to travel the world extensively.
But now you live in Jersey.
And now I live in Jersey. Don't
She
tell
picked
my
the
husband that.
shithole
I was
of
in New York
America.
for a year, but now he's like, don't tell anyone it's Jersey. Just tell them it's New York. It's just across a bridge or through a tunnel or something.
Actually, that's what most people do. They live in Jersey.
They just pretend. They're like, no,
Yeah,
New York's the
and then they
place
work
where-
in New York, yeah.
Exactly. But that's where I am now. But yeah, I traveled a lot, and I went to a lot of really, really cool places. I guess I've just always been fascinated by the world and people and the different types of people and how different they can evolve, how differently they can evolve where they are and why. But
What
I
do you
guess-
mean?
I don't know. I mean, I lived in Papua New Guinea for a long time, which is, if anyone knows, it's an island off in the middle of like, if you know where Australia is on the map, go up a little bit, and then there's a country there which is like West Papua New Guinea and East, and half of it is Indonesia and half of it's not. And it's like the final frontier of humanity, basically. Like, they still have cannibals, which is a thing.
No way.
Yeah. And so I lived in that jungle with a backpack and no running water for like, close to 6 months. And it was with a machete, like killing things and cutting things down and eating coconuts and like building drop holes to go to the toilet in and stuff. But
So you lived
cool.
like one of Nancy's favorite shows, which is Naked and Afraid.
Oh, yeah.
But you lived it.
Yeah, I lived it, and I was definitely afraid, not as naked. I had my jungle gear on. It was super sexy, man.
Seashells.
Super sexy.
And...
Yeah, and then, the only time I actually was naked, I think, was when I had to wash my clothes in the river. So that happened.
How old were you when you lived there?
I was 27, I believe.
27. And what made you go over there to do that? Did you know what you were getting into ahead of time?
You know what? I was obsessed with the idea that if you had nothing, then nobody could take anything away from you, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, any other way. And so
That's
I
great.
thought, you know what? People have done it for millions of years. People don't do it anymore. But what did people know then? It was actually quite a big soul search about things like mental illness and depression, which I thought that I had at the time. I was just in a bad place with some shitty people around me, which is, I guess, what depression is. Nah, just you meet shit people, they make you feel shit, and then you're like, oh, what's wrong with me? But the reality is...
Then you just defriend Nancy and everything's good again.
Exactly, just defriend people on Facebook and you're totally fine. And I just thought, you know what? There's got to be a different system here. Now, I wanted to know that what happens if you get back to real basics? What happens if you're just living and you don't have to worry about drama or Facebook or bullshit? And when you're living in the jungle, your biggest worries and concerns are literally keep myself hydrated, keep myself fed, find food somewhere, kill it and eat it quickly, and you really do turn into an animal. I was a vegetarian before that, let me tell you, and I killed things quickly. Very quickly. I was like, let me eat that spider. Throw it on the fire. I don't care.
Shut up. You ate spiders?
Spider?
I'm so scared of bugs.
Humongous, disgusting spiders. I was like, yum, yum, yum. Delicious.
What was the yummiest, gross thing you ate?
That
Oh my
doesn't
God,
make
I-
sense.
Yes, it makes sense.
Kind of.
You know what?
The thing that
You're going
think
to
is
have a
gonna be
laugh.
disgusting, and it's just, that was
You'll
delicious.
actually have a laugh. Somebody went into town. We hadn't eaten in weeks, except for
They killed an
eating
In-N-Out
leeks
burger.
and potatoes and berries and shit that we found. And somebody brought a can of Spam back from town in Port Moresby
World
in
War
Papua New
II.
Guinea, and I swear to you, I have never tasted anything so delectable. It was delicious in my life. And when I got back, I was like, oh, Spam. I had this obsession. I moved back to America, and I was like, Spam. And I opened a can, and I nearly vomited all over myself. So really, it's all relative. But I ate a bandicoot, which is like a rat, I guess.
Tell me a story. Tell us a story. Fuck me.
Tell me the
I'm such
story.
a narcissist asshole.
Yeah,
Should we
I'm here
disagree?
too.
So,
Let's disagree. Let's
What?
agree to disagree.
Agree to, okay.
Okay.
All right.
right.
You're on.
I want to know, and I hope others do too when I ask this, like a story of you killing.
Oh my god! I've got horrible stories.
No, but I mean, she's like, I've killed animals and I've eaten them.
I'll tell you. You know what? I am okay. So
I'm so disremoved from this life
This is true.
that I want to know what it's like because I have images of it and think of it of different ways just because of stuff I've seen on TV and
know what,
movies. I want to hear from the woman's mouth that has done it.
Yeah, let me tell you something. So prior to this jungle experience in Papua New Guinea, I've been very privileged. I've been very lucky. I lived in India, and at that point, obviously everybody's eating. No one's allowed to eat cows. You can't kill cows. It's illegal. So big vegetarian place. So I actually.
But you play a flute, so snakes come out of pots.
Yeah, that shit's weird. Very scary, that. But I was going through a stage where I thought, it was better to not eat meat. And Nancy can attest to the fact that I'm the world's biggest animal advocate. I'm obsessed with animals.
She is.
Really obsessed. I do a lot of work.
Wait,
I'm a
pause.
party animal.
Well, that's a
You
Pause
obsessed
that.
with me?
I want Justine quickly to give her animals a shout out and tell me their names and their breed. 'cause
Oh my
it
God!
cracks
I have
me
two
up.
Japanese chin dogs. If you've ever seen one of those, the one is called Tommy Pickles, who was actually not named after a rugrat. My husband and I decided he looked like a British gangster, so we thought we'd call him Pickles, and then it became Tommy Pickles. That was his name. And people were like, oh, like the rugrat. And I'm like, no. Oh my God, there's a rugrat. We have to change his name. But when we're mad, his name is Thomas, and he gets in trouble. And when he's got this alter ego going on, we call him Tippy, because he's kind of a dick. And sometimes my husband gets mad at me, calls him fuckstick. Sometimes that's his name.
I like
But
that
we
one.
try
Let's
to
go
be
with
gentle.
that. Okay, so fuck stick, and what's
And
the other
then
one's
we
name?
have a beautiful little rescue, also Japanese
Very
chin,
sexy. I
who's
just
very
met him.
special.
Very sexy.
He has eyes that go in different directions, and he has like teeth. He's like a walking can opener, this dog, but he's quite sweet. Got a very nice demeanor. And my husband thought we should call him Puppy Chulo, which means like sexy daddy, because he's just not.
So you have 2 Japanese
Yeah.
chins? I have 2 American chins.
Yeah.
There's one here, and then
one
there's
there.
just a big one underneath.
That's what my husband and I joke around all the time. We say our last time we're going to be those people with the chins. Because we've got 2 of them. It's just like, it's super embarrassing. And then my husband bought me a birthday present recently, which is the best thing ever. And it's this adorable cat called Bubble Goose, which is like the street term for like a down jacket in New York, because she's super fluffy. But she is a Scottish fold, which means she basically has like no ears and big eyes like an owl. And like when they, with like Puss in Boots, when like it's all cute with the big eyes and like the
Yeah.
ears are down, it looks like that permanently. And my husband and I had this discussion before we called her Bubble Goose, that we were going to call her Where the fuck is it? Or like, where is it? Because that's what she looks like she's about to say every time you look at her. She's like, where is it? She's adorable.
Name
though.
her Surprise. Surprise.
Surprise, exactly.
Surprise Kitty. She's
That's what she
Surprise
looked
Kitty.
like, and
Surprise
so-
Kitty's my favorite YouTube ever.
It's exactly. But now her name, because Bubble Goose is really quite long to say all the time, we just call her Baba G, which sounds like she's, some Guruji master from India, which she's just not.
Get her like tiny beats.
Baba G.
Little tiny
beats,
beats
okay,
by
tiny
Jay.
beats, exactly.
Meow.
But yeah, so she's like halfway between like a guru master in India and halfway between like Beats by Dre.
So that's your household.
She's kind of cool.
I like it.
Those are my kids.
So let's get back to you killing an animal.
Yes, okay. So as a huge animal lover and
As she
advocate,
describes her pets, and
I
we're
will
so
say
sweet.
that being that this
Kill
is
it.
a radio show and you cannot see what I
Rest in
look
peace,
like.
Bubba Goose.
No, God forbid, don't pour one out for the home.
We'll post a picture. We'll take a picture of the 3 of us
I
and
will.
post it on the
Later when I get home, I'll
Facebook page.
We'll
bring
upload some
more
images and
out for
things.
your
Now we'll do a
animals.
picture of the 3 of us and put it on the Facebook
For
page
sure.
so everybody knows what you look like.
No
She's
problems.
super hot.
Well, I don't know about that. But basically, I don't look like I just fell out of a piece of chopped liver. That's my Jewish humor there. But I was coined as I got into the jungle after flying on a Chinook helicopter and climbing down a rung ladder in the middle of the air, being dropped machete on arrival and boots. The leader that I had met up there, who happened to be 3 years younger than me at the time, some British guy who's still a fabulous friend of mine. Hello, Adam Hickman, if you're listening. He actually will probably have fond memories. He was not Jewish. He was definitely a redhead who was probably Irish.
He
Yeah.
was sunburnt.
He didn't get sunburned. But basically, he
Used
looked
to
at
be
me
Jewish.
and there was this big joke that was like, I believe he said, "Do you want to have a shower before we start?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, totally. I really would like that." And he went, "Good. There's the river. Have fun." And I was terrified. There were mosquitoes everywhere. And so I was kind of, from the minute I arrived, being Jewish, I'm 5'4" and whatnot, and the only other girls that were there were 3 girls, and one of them all of them were above 5'11", and they were all like gold medalist
Khloe
rowers,
Kardashian.
and like, no, these were a different level of like jungle survivor women who were very strong, and mostly British.
Amazon.
Did
And
you
I was-
see a Khloe Kardashian while you were in the jungle?
There was no Khloe Kardashians anywhere. And so the big joke was
Odom
not only
was
that I
there.
was a Jew, but it was like
That's
I was
the
this
joke.
I was like a tiny little weird Jew who couldn't do anything, and I wasn't strong. I was small, so I became princess. I was like the princess, and they were like, "Where's your eyelash curler, princess?" And
Also fucked with you.
Oh, totally. So when everyone was very hungry on the 3rd day, after we were like really starving, everyone was not coping very well.
You're less to feed.
It became a joke. Fine, you know what? No one's eating because I was vegetarian at the time, until Justine kills a chicken. And I was like, but what? And everybody was very upset when you're living in a group of people who are starving and in a jungle, and this is not funny anymore. Justine's going to kill the chicken, and that was the deal. And we bought a chicken from market, and then it ran around, and no one could catch it again, and eventually we got it. But, I mean, you've got to understand, we didn't have a house. We're running around in the jungle, like, chasing this animal that didn't want to be caught. It was a wild chicken. And I was given 3 options, and it was like, okay, either you can hold the chicken by its wings and smack it on the back until its spinal cord goes into its head. I was like,
What's option 2?
Or you can hold the chicken's head down on the floor, put a stick over its neck, stand on that, and pull its body away from its head. Or you can figure out a way to hold it still enough to take your machete and slash its throat.
Oh, I do that.
And I was like, I'm not killing the chicken. Sorry, I'm out.
Just fly back to America.
Yeah, I was like, I'm out. And, of course, that doesn't make friends fast on your third day when everyone's really hungry.
I'm a celebrity.
And no, well, I mean, people were like...
me, I'm a Princess Jew.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, and I was terrified and I was really upset about this experience. But I will not lie, as a human being, which we all are animals, I was hungry, and it was more important at that moment that I found a way to integrate into this new society I was about to be living in the middle of the jungle, and I wanted to eat food. I was really hungry. Nancy, which way do you think I chose, Honey Bunny?
You slashed its throat.
All right, what do you think?
I think you pulled its body.
Neither of those are correct. I opted for what I thought would be the least aggressive way of holding its wings and smacking it on the back really hard, because I figured that its consciousness would be shifted as soon as that happened and it wouldn't be as bloody or violent. But if I was going to pick an option, that was my guy, which I was very upset about. So obviously, because I wasn't so dedicated to this moment, I was very anxious. I held it and it was flapping and screaming in my ear, and it was awful. And I tried to smack it with a stick, and obviously it was a pathetic hit because I was all nervous and weird.
You're not into it.
And it went like that. And then I was looking away with my eyes closed, and I went, is it dead? And everyone was like, no, and it was still flapping around. And so I actually ended up brutally beating the thing until it died, which was awful, and I should have probably chosen another way. The good news is that there was another guy there who they picked on because he was also small and weird and from Ireland or something, and heavily acneed small man called Callum. And exactly. And
Irish
he was the guy who was in charge of figuring out how to pluck the chicken, which was not my job, which was very cool.
He was an even bigger girl than you.
Bigger, exactly. And you know what was so funny? I actually, after I killed it, I was devastated. I had to take a moment with the 3 bars of battery out of my iPod, which I should have saved in retrospect, obviously. I had a bit of a cry, listened to some atmosphere or something weird, and just took a moment. And then I looked back at Callum, and he was about this little, it was just, imagine a tiny little curly head. He looked like a Harry Potter character, okay?
Aww.
Yeah. And his family actually raised owls, which was a thing. In I think he was actually Welsh. I'm talking shit. He was weird. But anyway, I actually looked back and he was sobbing like a small child while plucking feathers out of this bird and sobbing and sobbing. And it was a very sad moment. But I will say that I ate the chicken that night.
Good for you.
I got a very small part. There were lots of us and one chicken. And I then felt so sick that I had to go lie down in my hammock. And no one else was ready to go to bed. And all I remember was listening to the very quiet sobs of Callum across we had to lie in a special formation the first few nights. And I just remember hearing and all I wanted to do was puke because it just wasn't sitting well that I killed this thing and ate it. And he was just crying, and I actually just felt so sad for him. But that was the first time I killed anything. And then it was a rapid decline. Anything I found, I was alligator, in, whatever, lizards, bird, whatever. Whatever there was, I'd eat it. I didn't care.
Good for you. Do what you need to do.
Nah, it was weird. That's probably how I got a parasite in my liver. But, that's, you get hungry. But people are people. And we're really just animals.
Yeah. I can imagine that. I mean, when you get hungry enough, you start reverting to the
animal
actual,
behavior. And
exactly.
So people don't realize that. You can talk about it and say, I'm sure if I was hungry, I'd eat anything. And as... you're looking at me like I'm not the kind of person who would actively smack chickens. Trust me.
No, we feel safe.
Good, you should. And I was quite surprised. But you just have to keep dry, keep hydrated, not die, and eat things. And the only thing that people talk about in the jungle, there are 3 things. You'd be fascinated to know. It's the same shit you guys talk about on your radio show, probably. We talk about food, what kind of food we like. It's always imagine eating a large Nandana kebab. Or a McDonald's, or we just talk obsessively about food because there's none. And then we talk about poo obsessively.
Oh, dude, I'm
because
there.
Did you poo? Didn't you poo? What was it? What color was it? Where was it? Did you go in the long drop? How big was it? Who laid that huge shit in the long drop?
Did you drop your shorts in a public restroom and there was pee on the floor?
Dig a hole first?
Yeah, we had to dig a massive
bears
hole. It's actually weird because when I was in Papua New Guinea, part of the reason I was there is we were building toilets. We were building toilets to improve the hygiene conditions in the highlands of Papua New Guinea. And so we were using natural resources to build toilets and shut out flies and teach people how to wash their hands after they take a shit. That's what we're there for. And we had this long drop, and it was the biggest story. And I still have visions and memories. of like the flies and like the noises, and at night you've got your headlamp on and you're running around like trying to go to the toilet, and you can hear all these locusts, and it's terrifying, and like you just hope you find the right place. And then you have to like light a fire and blow it up every few days because like maggots and shit happen. It's weird. It's a weird life, man. Weird shit happens in the jungle. But yes, food, poo, and the third topic is wanking.
Really?
Yeah,
Wanking?
Yeah. Did you wank? Did you have a cheeky wank? Who wanked? Has anyone wanked? You know,
What's
I've wanked twice.
masturbating, whatever.
Okay, yeah, that is what we talked about.
So
I've
everybody's
wanked
like-
twice since the show started, and I've shit once.
Amazing. But yes, that's the big subject because it's like you're living in the jungle and everyone's like, did you? Didn't you? Did you? Because then so the girls are like, well, if you start, you can't stop. And then the guys are like too embarrassed because that's weird. But if
But
they
nobody
don't,
knows what's in your backpack. So you can have in there what you need.
Yeah, but
just in
what
case.
are you going to have?
Like toilet paper, a vibrator,
Let me tell you about toilet paper.
batteries.
Toilet paper goes so fast it disintegrates in the jungle, my
Batteries
darling.
last a little while.
Let me tell you about batteries and mercury and all the stuff that leaks out. And they do not, actually, the sun and living in the jungle. Because they can't go inside. If you think about it, they're outside exposed to heat all the time, so the batteries are done.
Yeah.
No batteries, bro.
Okay.
No tampons. They disintegrate in
That's
jungle
what
conditions.
dudes
Blew
are
my
there
mind
for.
just now.
Oh, it is that.
Okay, so funny. So, her and I, when I retrieved her from her probably first or second world tour,
Yeah, I remember.
and we hang out, and I'm talking to her. I'm like, wait, where was your favorite place? What was the craziest place? But then I asked her, what did you miss the most about civilization? And what she said was so simple, but shocked me. I'm like, really? That's what you missed?
What do you remember?
Sitting on a chair
Yeah.
or a couch. She said,
Yeah.
think about being in the jungle for how long? Sitting. Just, there's no couch, no chair, no
Yeah.
ottomans.
There's nowhere to,
Nowhere to sit.
it's not even the ottomans or the couches. It's literally that if you sit on the floor, you are going to get bitten by like a fire ant or or a snake or anything. So you can't sit on the floor. There are flies absolutely everywhere. You can sit on a tree stump, but you have like no back support or anything like that, and it's very uncomfortable. And so nowhere you sit, and all you have as a bed is a hammock. Really, that's what I lived in. So there is nowhere to sit. And you know what? I still will remember that for as long as I live. I'm actually very proud of you that you remembered that moment, that I said that to you, because it still stands.
Yeah, I think about that because
Yeah.
I sit a lot.
Yeah,
right
we
now
have
I'm
such a
sitting
luxury in this-
in a really nice. I think it's a Herman Miller chair.
Yeah.
And you're still bitching about
And it has a cushy pad
Exactly.
on it. And
Imagine
I'm like,
that. Imagine your
and
bum like never sat on anything soft for like months and months. Like
I can't.
What your
It's-
body goes through. You know what
It's
I'm saying?
more than my brain even knows how to imagine.
Even if
What
you had a
made
backpack,
you-
you couldn't sit on it. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I
Hold on.
the thought of having a backpack makes me feel uncomfortable because it would get in the way of my sitting.
I thought of a backpack. I just feel like I'm going back to school, and that's awful.
Yeah, this thing's a whole nother story.
What made you want to do this? The way that it sounds to me is that you went to this thing that it's almost like a camp. So it was you sign up for this, and there's a guide, and then you do it for a certain amount of time. Is that
That's not exactly what happened. I actually decided that I just needed to go on this mission, and I was going to figure it out once I got there, and I'd keep just cruising.
was it something that you heard about, or was it just I'm going
So
to this place
no.
and I'll figure it out when I
No,
get there?
actually,
She's
when
a
I
trip
was,
down the rabbit hole. Like
yeah,
that's
when I was like
Justine.
obsessed with the idea of going to a jungle, I just wanted a jungle, and so I actually was obsessed with trying to go to Borneo, but I couldn't quite figure out a way to get in there because it's very expensive. So I then thought, well, Papua New
How
Guinea
is
is a
it?
jungle.
Hold on, because again, I'm naive. I don't know.
Okay.
But how is it expensive? Because
Well, Borneo
my
is a
thought of
tough
it.
place to fly into. There's not like a big city or
So
a
that's
place.
the cost of it. You
Essentially,
fly
yeah.
into it and then you just go from there.
And it's not like a built-up place. It's a jungle. So, like, yeah, they've got some conservation stuff going on with, like, orangutans and stuff in Borneo. But it's very hard to, like, find anyone who will, like, tell you where to go, how to get anywhere. You can't, like, rent a car and, like, jeep across the jungle. This doesn't exist there. So I was like, okay, well, Papua New Guinea is a jungle. So I decided the way I was going to get there was I needed to be on that side of the world because I tried to buy a flight from Arizona, and it rang up to something like $3,600 to fly to Papua New Guinea. And I just couldn't understand it. So what I thought was, I'll fly to Australia, I'll hang out, I'll find out how people get there, and I'll fucking get there. And I got in touch with this group who only took UK people called Trek Force. And what they did was they trekked through the jungle on something called the Black Cat Trail, which is described in any book as like only for sadomasochists and Israeli paratroopers. So that's the level of difficulty on that
Yeah.
hike. And I was like, all right, you know what? I'm strong and like I could like figure it out. And so I actually, on a whim, booked myself a ticket to Port Moresby, which is the city. And once the ticket was booked, I then got in touch with these people and said, like, I'm coming, and that's that. And so I was actually a day or two late to join a group who were there to build these toilet facilities. They weren't like there having fun times. They were there to like educate and do stuff. I ended up staying a really long time because we did a lot of trekking. We also picked up a lot of like World War II shit that was on the floor, like helmets and Chinese helmets and stuff. Japanese helmets and bullet shells from the war. And we were going to give them to the community so they could build like a museum to make some money. If tourists came, they would have this place where all these like war relics were, because they were just hanging out on this trail that nobody ever walked because it was so dangerous. And then we built toilets, and then I actually ended up staying on and teaching all these children how to speak English because I just couldn't go. It was too awesome. And like, yeah, I learned how to like spearfish and like live like what I think is like an amazingly cool, honest, awesome life and help people do cool stuff.
It's really the way that humans were supposed to
be. I just didn't want to live this life and not experience what I can read about, if that makes sense. Like I can read about how people used to do stuff and Bushmen in Africa, whatever. But I didn't feel like it was cool, that I would never learn through self or through being there myself or seeing through my own eyes what that was like or what it felt like to be standing in the rain with no protection and nowhere to go and like, sorry for you, fucking figure it out, get dry, run away, hide under a rock, get in a cave, dig a fucking hole. And it was such an empowering experience. It like changed me as a human being.
How long were you there for?
Papua New Guinea, 6 months.
And did you do another jungle stint?
I got out of the jungle and flew from there back to Australia, where I landed up on one of my very close friends' doorstep. I had not still had a shower in 6 months. I'd bathed in the river and things, but like I showed up like still in jungle clothes.
Did you have a beard?
I did not have a beard. Actually, I used to use my camera to pluck my eyebrows, if you must know.
How do you do that?
Very badly. I didn't know at the time. Lucky there are not that many photos, but no, I landed up on his doorstep in Australia, and he was like, I think he didn't even say hello. I think he pointed at the shower. And I had to leave my disgusting backpack outside, and he hadn't seen me in months. I'd been out of communication, didn't have a cell phone, didn't have anything. My parents had no idea that I was where I was for months and months and months. And they knew that. And when I went in, I said, I'm out. I actually left a Facebook status that was like, I'm going to the jungle. Be back when I'm back. Out. And I was gone. And that was that. I disappeared. And yeah, from Australia, like, killed it. And of course, I was like, oh my God, the first experience. I remember hearing like a street light. Because in Australia, they have these blind, like, these noises for blind people at the street lights. And it was so overwhelming just to hear this, like, this panic beep that was so technologically advanced from living in quiet.
It had to be a culture shock, like 6 months removed.
Yeah, no, totally, like, blew my mind. Flushing the toilet. I was like, it was very weird.
Using a toilet?
Well, I remember that bit. That was quite comfortable. But I remember, like, forgetting a few times to flush the toilet. Because I was like, I remember, like, not having access to, like, wash hands or, you know, wipe things on napkins and stuff. And so I used to wipe my hands on my pants all the time. And when I first got out the jungle, I would do that all the time. Like, you can't do that in the real world. Like, people think you're a fucking loser. I remember going on dates and thinking that men thought I was, like, a fucking animal. Because
you walked on all fours?
Yeah, there was that. But yes. So, yeah, Australia. And then after Australia, I just hung out there, binge drank for a while. Partied like a rock star. Why not? Like, that's what you do when you get out the jungle, right? And then...
that's what you do.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and then I flew from there, I think...
Jungle of Phoenix.
Exactly. Yeah, tell me about it.
After I got over my jungle fever, partied like a rock star.
There was nothing else to do. It was the only thing to do. And then I landed up in Indonesia, in Bali. Lived there, and then from there...
I hate it when that happens.
How do you just end up? Yeah.
Happens to me all the time.
Like, I end up on my bathroom floor. How do you end up in Indonesia?
I decided, you know what, I looked around and was like, hey, where am I? I looked at a map. I looked at a fucking map.
Not an app,
and I went,
a map.
Not an app, yeah. There's a map.
Looked on Google Maps.
There's an app
I
for that
typed in New York, and it took me to Indonesia. This fucking app
I looked
sucks.
at it, and I went.
Yours takes you to your bathroom floor. Just update that shit.
You know what the thing is? I thought, okay, well, I looked at where I was in relation to what was around me and figured I've got X amount of money, and if I go closer, it is cheaper, logically, and if I go further, it is not. And I was like, okay, I'm here.
I
It
think
will
with
be
this
cheaper to get
extreme
there.
adventure, you shouldn't even have to be financially responsible.
Oh,
You're
well-
out there without a couch. Shouldn't that be enough?
Wasn't your bank like, we've had no activity for 6 months? What the shit
and
are
we
you?
have activity in Indonesia.
Yeah.
Fraud.
Oh, no,
Fraud alert.
I had to call every time and say I was anywhere doing anything or whatever.
Christmas shopping in Bali.
Yeah, right.
But
you
yeah, I
just
ended up in
sprouted
Bali.
up in Bali.
Also, you know what you forget, as a traveler.
A lot of bar charges in Australia.
That happened for sure.
You went from nothing in
It was actually
America
crazy. I
I
to
went
remember
to
6
strip
months later.
clubs
I
in
remember the
Indonesia.
first night.
We've been looking for men stealing women, and we think that one of them has gotten you in Australia.
No, I remember actually flying in and being like, okay, so I'm here, and then I got clean, and my friend who had been living like a normal human being was like, yeah, we're going to go out and listen to what did he want to see? Some crazy electronica Berlin Beats shit.
Yeah, Skrillex.
Raves.
The Berlin Beats. It was this crazy and I remember he took me out to this party and there was this electronic and all these flashing lights and I nearly had a freaking aneurysm. I was like, I'm out, bitches, see you later. I really couldn't cope.
Back to the jungle.
Yeah, I walked
Where it's
home,
safe.
didn't cope. It was weird. Yeah, it did not feel
With
safe.
the snakes.
So you watch the Hunger Games, and you're just like, pussies.
You know what? I actually fell asleep on the plane watching that movie.
Hamek is her dad.
Kidding, man. No, you know what? Katniss, she's kind of hot, so that kept me interested in that movie. But I thought that was a really cool concept for a film.
Oh,
You
it's
get to kill
great,
people 'cause
dude.
they're
Kids
hungry.
murdering other kids.
Now,
Oh, I
it's
took
good.
my kid to
Look,
see
I
that
don't think
movie.
it's a children thing. I think
I
it's a
took my
good
kids
world
to see
concept.
it.
Or what's that guy who writes scary movies? Stephen Creepiness King, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that'd be
Stephen
cool
King.
for that shit. But kids shouldn't be watching that stuff. That's weird.
Right.
Except they
good
put
to
that
know.
very marketable hot chick in there, and then it turned into a whole nother
And then
experience.
Thor's brother's in there. So.
He's kind of hot. Let's be honest.
To be very honest, he's very hot.
That's kind of okay. But yeah, there were some things.
So it was kind of weird to adjust back after 6 months, which isn't that long of a time, but doing what you did, people don't think of it in their everyday lives because we have all these
Evolved systems.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had turned my phone on and I didn't remember how to do things that I did every day, all the
It
time.
needs to be updated for
Yeah, I had
2
to-
years
Yeah.
worth of updates.
No, just simple things
Probably
that
still
you're used to
updating.
doing that are just no longer simple to you or don't actually make logical sense because the way we've grown up now is not really that logical. You know, if you look at the systems we've built, they make sense because we've learned them. But when you get back to basics and stuff like that, those systems are really weird and obsolete in the old world.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely don't need them. None of this stuff is a necessity.
No, keep dry.
I
But
need
we've
it.
grown
hungry.
to
Yeah,
it to
you
where
just-
we rely on it.
I need it.
But
think
you
you do.
don't. Yeah, right. But you
you do.
don't.
Okay, so that was my main question I wanted to ask you when I wanted you to come on the show. I wanted you to talk about the jungle, and then
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you this honestly.
Yeah.
I know you wouldn't recommend this to everybody, or would you?
Listen, you know
would
what?
you say to me this, Justine? Do you think this experience would be good for everybody, or no, not for the weak?
It's not about
you
that. I
know
actually think it would
me.
be a really good experience for the weak because they learn how strong they are very quickly. But
Some may die.
yeah, that's called survival of the fittest. You're not supposed to be here, bro.
But
Evolution should have gotten rid of you anyway. You know what I'm
be
saying?
dead in,
sorry to
the
be
second day.
brutal, but
This is a soul
figure it out.
switching experience. You may
It's
not
not
come
actually-
back.
Like, hey, how do you make a rope? And they all show me, and then I'm like, now how do you tighten a noose? Because I'm killing myself. This is awful.
You know
Why
what?
would they let me
I think
take
it's for
shoelaces
people
on my trip?
I think it's for people who need to desperately understand themselves and to understand the way they work and if they can work and what they do rely on in life. I don't know a lot of people who are willing to put themselves in that position. People like the luxuries of their life of not having to do this stuff. To a lot of people, this is terrifying. My mother could not for the life of her, and never will, be able to understand what the hell I was doing. It makes no sense to her at all. And I find most people I speak to are like that. It's just weird. Who does that? But
Can you explain that? I don't mean to interrupt
No.
from what you're saying, but explain that part of it in that you now tell your parents that this is what you want to do. So they've taken you from South Africa
Yeah,
to
that
the
didn't
United
go well.
States and Arizona, and now you're saying, thank you, but now I want to do this other thing to put me
Be
back in the jungle.
homeless in the jungle.
they
Yeah.
actually thought I had...
Thanks for all the hard work,
They
Dad.
were very... You know what? They were very upset with me. And they, of course, tried to be like good Jewish parents and really thumb down and no, what are you doing? This is craziness. But that's why I kind of elusively was like, guys, I'm going to fly into Australia to go see my buddies who immigrated there 10 years ago. And then slowly from there far away was like, listen, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going, I'm out, and da-da-da-da-da. 3 conversations, phone was off, and I was done. gone.
You were just like
But
updating
you
your
already knew,
Facebook.
before you went to Australia, you knew that this is what you wanted to
I
do?
knew I wasn't coming back next week. My mom, I think at the time, I remember her saying something to me like, how long do you think you're going to be gone for? Where's your ticket home? And I was like, there's no ticket home. It's one-way tickets the whole way to wherever. And she was like, you'll be back, ha ha ha, kind of thing. Not that she was mean. She was just like, yeah, you'll be back in 1 minute. You'll miss your bed and whatever.
But that's
And,
great of them to allow you to do that.
They didn't have a choice. I was already 27,
Yeah.
and my money was all mine. I had earned every cent. I took nothing from them. What else could they do? They
You're
could say
right.
no and fight with me, but then they just lose me anyway. So they didn't have a choice. Had I been
You're right.
younger and reliant on their funding, that would be a different story. They'd be like, no, take it away and wouldn't let me go.
Did you feel support from them?
I didn't feel their presence at all because they were not there, either by the phone or any other way. They were just gone, and everyone was gone. The only thing that existed was like me and walking through a jungle and not dying every day.
What was the trip or the place you went to where you were like, okay, it's time to come home. I want to come home now.
That never happened. Actually, it still has not happened. I feel like external forces pull me in all directions all the time, but I did land up in Cambodia, and I was at Angkor Wat, actually, and I have an older brother who lives in South Africa. And my second niece had been born, and unfortunately I was the only one of the whole family who hadn't traveled back to South Africa to meet her. And I'd been so far removed from family for a long time, and I saw a photograph of her, and he said, where are you? I said, I'm in Cambodia. He said, well, why are you such a shit sister? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, if you had a kid, I'd have been there. And I was like, okay. He says to me, just come to South Africa. I was like, well, I've got this much money, and I've got to work this out, and I've got to see that. And this was like on the Wednesday, and by Friday morning, I had secretly booked a plane ticket back to South Africa, called my brother's wife, and planned a secret arrival to surprise him. And I landed up back in South Africa. So when you say you wanted to go home, I didn't have a home. Nowhere was home. Home was South Africa for 18 years. Then home was Arizona for this many years. And then home was the jungle for a little while. I didn't really have a home. So my first calling back to family was when he said that. I realized I'm not just my own person. I can't just do what I want to do. I live in a world that is part of other people's worlds, and they miss me and care about me. And it's nice to have these experiences and learn these things, but it's selfish. Look, I'm helping all these other little babies and holding them. I've never held my niece. So I went home.
That's a great answer. That's a great thing to say.
It's true.
I mean, where you grew up, I think home is where your family is.
Home is where your heart is.
Home is where the heart is, It depends who's hot, but that's where home is. But yeah, you got to go where you go and do what you do, and you got to do what's good for you when it's good for you. And when it's not good anymore, you reevaluate and make a change and get the fuck out of there. Start again. You know what I mean?
Well put.
Hey, Jersey, what's up?
And you ended up in Jersey. I
Now
love
you
it.
live in the shittiest jungle.
Shittiest
Of the
fucking
I
level.
love
world.
that.
Meatheads
You went
and
from the
things.
jungle to Jersey.
Oh, yeah. You know
Tan
what?
Like, I
laundry.
can't survive Jersey.
My motto, my credo.
I think
Gym
I'm
tan
actually
laundry.
going to write a book, and maybe I'll say from the jungle to fucking Jersey.
You should. That's totally it.
From the
Make it
jungle
sound
to the
like-
shore.
Jungle to the shore, yeah, right. Exactly.
That's awful, man. Oh.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think
Absolute
it's
pleasure.
absolutely
Thank
beautiful.
you for having me. It's been so nice to be here with you guys. Feels like home.
Now,
Good.
you've been
Just a mobile home.
honestly, this isn't, to me, we're not even recording. I want to keep this shit going and keep talking to you and learning all this crazy shit.
I gotta go home.
No, now I'm the guy that stole you, and now everyone's trying to find you. The stories that you have, the life that you've lived, I can say, at least from my side, I think I've lived a full life, but then talking to you, I haven't done shit in my life. You're an inspiration to a lot of people to go out and just kind of do whatever you want to do and have always wanted to do. And thank you so much.
I appreciate that. That is very humbling to hear, because I didn't do it for me. I did it at the time. I just did it because that's what I wanted to do. I didn't do it for ego or anyone to tell me how nice it was or how cool it was. So it's interesting how many years later to have someone say, wow, that's cool, because it wasn't that cool at the time.
All right. Well, to wrap this up, I brought you on here because I love you. You're my best
I love
friend.
you too, my darling.
And I think you're one of the smartest people I know.
Oh,
So
wow. Thank you.
to bring this show to an end, unless Kevin wants to add anything, I printed out a list for you to read, because that's
Okay.
customary
All right.
on Appropriately Inappropriate, and that's not it. But this is a list, and it's 20 signs you're smarter than the average person.
Oh, fuck.
But I only made it to 17 because I took 3 off, because I thought they were fucking ridiculous.
Does that make you smarter than the average person?
Absolutely.
20? So do you want me to
So
read
we
that?
went
So all
from this
17.
glorious, like, awesomely cool story.
We're dumbing
to
it down to end it with me.
Okay, so you want me to read the question
So
and
you read
answer it?
Yeah, so the last one.
This is a lot of my voice for these listeners.
That's
I'm sorry,
why
guys.
I printed the list out, because I
Oh,
love your voice so much.
Keep talking. Okay.
Eat your heart out, Renfro.
So I'm going to read this list, and feel free to interject, hosts of the show, anytime I feel like I've been
Absolutely.
talking everyone's ear off like
We
a
love
donkey.
No,
Okay.
dude, I don't want you to stop me. This is badass.
So, the list says 20 signs you're smarter than the average person.
But it's only 17. 'cause I
But
took
it's only
3 off.
17. Okay, so 1. You are more likely to have experimented with drugs.
Is that it?
And then-
I have done that. Does that make me smart?
Yes, it absolutely does.
Nancy,
and this
what about you?
included, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, what about you?
No.
But
No.
he's still smart. But this included,
okay.
I was reading this article, and it included marijuana, cocaine, heroin,
Well, that's retarded because that's
and
a very
tobacco.
No, man, that's a weird list. Number one, because I mean, you're dealing with
this
like
was
opiates
Princeton.
and dopiates and up and down. And
Princeton compiled this list.
I think what they're saying in that statement is that you're more likely to have experimented with drugs, which makes you a person who is maybe more open to experiences and therefore open to knowledge or parallel universes or some other weird shit.
I
is
think
why
that's
I
why
handed her
Justine is
this list.
smarter than the average
You know what I mean?
person because she just
She dumped
scientifically explained the question.
Exactly.
You know, are
I
you open enough to receive different sorts of stimuli and information,
Gifts
and are you
from
scared
drugs.
of yourself?
And she just did it again.
Et cetera.
It's
Okay.
like
I
two
know.
different ways.
I know. That was
Okay,
wrong.
are we going the next one? 2. You don't sleep around. This only applies to men. I actually didn't ever sleep around. That was not my forte in life, I have
I
to
didn't
say.
sleep around.
Then,
I've been trying
You're-
forever, but
so, well,
You know, there's no fault in
makes you
trying.
smart.
but There's no.
I just think it's funny that this
It's
list
interesting that
says
that's on that list.
women, we have the green light. Go ahead, sleep around. You're
Yeah.
smart. Men, don't do it. You're dumb.
Well, because that
That's
is
interesting.
okay. Men have
Because
men
women
have
know what we're
reptile
doing.
Well,
Men think
not
with-
all women actually, but men actually, in my opinion, and I love them
I'll
very
leave this
much,
to
and
you.
I have plenty that I've
Love.
are that are inspirations to me. And my husband's an amazing man, and it's not like I'm any sort of man hater, but like men are reptile brained. Like they can't help it. Like if there are boobs on TV. Like, they don't even have to be nice boobs. They just have to be fucking boobs. And then it's like they get distracted very quickly.
That's why I'm overweight.
You know what
I
I'm
can
saying?
feel my own.
That is a very good point. I like that. I meant to, you know what? I suggest this for others if they are struggling with the same problems. So I think that's my opinion on that. 3, you do not believe in God. I don't know how to
Nobody
fucking-
commented.
You know what?
Just
I
got
don't do that.
silent.
I believe.
I don't know, man.
I don't have I won't say I believe in any specific God. I'm Jewish.
It's
but I
suggesting
am,
you question because
I am
you
traditional,
have a brain.
and I have lived in so many countries that there is a little bit of Taoism, a little bit of Hindi, a little bit of black magic. Man, there's a lot of stuff that shamanism is something that I think is interesting. There are a lot of interesting religions out there, you know, and there's a lot of interesting shit to take from each of them. If you don't learn anything about anything else, you'll never know anything. If you read some shit, you might like find some cool stuff in every single one and roll them up into your own ball of tricks, and that'll be you. I'm probably suggesting you should look into it at some point, unless you have huge ego and cannot imagine.
I call
You
my
were-
penis ego. I have a huge
thing.
ego.
Okay, 4, you are the oldest child in your family. I am not. I am in the middle.
I'm not either.
Middle child
I'm the
syndrome.
middle.
Okay.
You think you're the youngest, but there's more of you don't know about. So you are the middle, Kevin.
What?
The middle of the middle.
Surprise.
And you didn't
My
even
parents
know
have had kids they never told me about?
This is true.
it. Oh my
Cool.
I'm just
dude.
kidding. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
What?
just trying to make this apply to you.
Your mother had terrible morning sickness during her pregnancy. I actually read that terribly. That didn't sound like a list. It sounded like a statement. Your mother had
I didn't
terrible
make
morning
that up.
sickness during pregnancy.
I don't know.
You know what? I don't believe my mother did. I think
My
she was
smarter
glowing.
kid I was really sick with, so I'll say that could be true.
I haven't had kids, so I don't. I
My
can't-
smarter
can't
kid, I was
attest.
sicker in the morning with the pregnancy.
You were a teenage virgin. Number 6. Jesus. What kind of question is that? Is that a state? What is
It's a
this?
state. It's compiled research put into the list.
So this makes you
Question
smart.
the list.
Okay. I'm not going to ask anyone these questions because that's kind of a weird one. Because then everybody's
Why?
going to be like, well,
say it.
what?
You have
Because
to
no,
read it.
I'll tell you what, like, you know, you were a teenage virgin.
Oh,
No one
right,
can
right.
qualify that because I feel like for girls it's always like, I didn't because I tried. And, you know, the in and out for 1 second just to see how it feels, whatever. Okay? How does that go in America? Just put it in for a minute.
Just the tip?
Do you see how it feels? Yeah.
A baby? A pregnancy?
No,
Is
no,
that what
no,
that's
no.
called?
I don't know. I
You know what
had
I'm
sex
talking
when I
about,
was
right?
a teenager. I
Yeah, I know.
definitely came
Okay.
once I put it in.
Okay, yeah, no, that wasn't me. I'm not on this. I'm not fucking smart
what
enough
is
to be on
that?
this list.
Oh, no, that's something else. That's
You know, when you're like hanging out and you're dating a boy for like 2 years and you're like 16 and he's your boyfriend and that's all he wants and you're like, okay, no, actually. You like change your mind every 3 minutes.
I was going to say one hitter quitter, but I think that applies to drugs.
Oh, I don't even know that statement. See, I'm foreign when that
See,
happens.
language barrier.
Wait, we should write. We should go back to writing.
Or drawing,
You come
maybe.
from a smart family. My family is extraordinarily cool and very smart. All very different, but smart. What about you? I'll give your family
on
props. On
average?
average. Well, how many? There's lots of kids there, hey?
Tons.
So-
So on average, both my parents are really smart.
Pretty smart.
Yeah.
Kids, we're going for like 50-50?
I have a lot of siblings.
Yeah.
Some of them are really, really smart.
And the others on the bottom of the list.
Yeah. One of my brothers is in school to be a chemical engineer. So
Jeez. Not
just
stupid.
one of them.
Clearly. What
my
about
parents are really smart.
Oh, dude, we're all smart and shit.
you? We're all fucking smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. If your mother did not eat tuna or fish with high mercury levels while pregnant, I have no idea. Yeah, no, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm going to guess my mom didn't because I'm really smart.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I'll tell you that, like, these days, I don't know.
It's not
like,
suggested.
well, I watched Blackfish and stuff, and I'm quite an
No
advocate
tricks?
for, like, the Cove and all these, like, dolphin awareness things. The fucking ocean, man, is so fucked up. Like, you can't eat anything that lives in there.
No.
There's so much bad crap in there. We
And I
dump, like,
like
everything
fish a
there. Like,
lot.
we're
I'm
fucking this place up
bummed
so
out.
badly. Like, you'd be retarded to be eating fish right now.
Which is
Which is probably the point of the
what you
list.
just
Right, 9,
said.
you don't smoke. I'm out. You know, I lived in the jungle. They have tobacco there that you can, like, pick yourself. It's quite a
But
thrill.
then question one or list
You are
item
likely to
one
have
says
experimented with drugs.
was tobacco was one of the
this
drugs
list
you're allowed
is
to
a
do.
bit fucking outrageous, in my opinion.
Maybe it was done by college students. They're
Well,
all
that's
over the
now,
board.
well, this doesn't count. Okay, you were breastfed. I was breastfed.
I was.
I still am.
Yep.
Excellent.
No, I don't know if I was. I never asked.
My first daughter was. She's brilliant. My second one wasn't.
You're like, formula for you.
struggled.
Sorry, you're not
She
smart.
was tube fed, but
Aw.
she
My
struggles a
dad
little.
fed me.
All right, so see, we can't answer some of these questions.
You got that?
What, did he feed you with, like, with one of those, like, male
No, he made me
breasts?
suck his dick.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was going
Isn't that
for.
weird?
No, not in his religion.
Oh, really? What a Jew. Right, got it. Never mind.
Child molester.
Is child molesting a religion now?
It's what we believe in.
Well, you know, it is what it is.
His
Got it.
mom smoked.
No, I never sucked my dad's dick. I'm sorry, Dad. I know
That's-
you.
you know
listen.
what? This might be
Look how
funny for him,
high
but, like,
he
imagine
was.
his
Look
poor
at him.
father. Like, he was, like, sitting there going, oh, my God, I'm going to get, like, what does your father even do? I'm
like
going
a
to get struck
baby
off the roll. They're going to think I'm
He has to
a...
regurgitate into your
Exactly. Oh, my God. Okay. You had music lessons at some point during your childhood. I did not.
Really?
I don't believe I did, no. My brothers both play, like, 7 instruments by ear. And no one had lessons.
How do you play it by ear, dude? You get wind coming out of your ear?
They can
She
actually
played
pick
boomerang.
up a note.
Oh, I get what you're saying. I
Why
thought you meant
not?
put the saxophone up to their
Yeah,
ear
that
and
would
they
be
just
weird.
blow out of it.
But my older brother does play the saxophone, not
Nice
through,
hand
not through
movement.
his ear.
He plays the conch shell.
Nancy's over on the other side playing,
That's hilarious.
mimicking
I hear
it.
the
You can
ocean
only
out
see
of the
it
shell.
this
That's not an
way.
instrument.
A conch shell, listening to, yeah, exactly. You're not an avid texter. Well, Nancy's not an avid
Genius.
texter. She just does a yes or a no, and then I have to
I
be
do a
like,
K.
please text me something of value or call me.
And the other day
she
I did.
got
And
a-
I hope you
got
liked
I
it.
got 3 sentences.
Did you like it?
I loved it.
Was it the only long text I've ever given
We're
you?
so far away from one another these days that, like, more than a yip would be
I know,
nice,
but I'm
you
just,
know?
I'm such a bad texter.
Or are you a
And
good
I'm
texter and that makes you more
always
intelligent?
driving.
Does that make you more intelligent?
Well, the
you know
list
what?
says it doesn't.
You know what? That's good. I think
a
that
safe
the
driver.
general public, like, advocates the not texting driving thing, so that is
That's
good.
why I don't text, because I'm always on the road.
So
I
now
speak
she's
into my
given me
phone,
she's given me a situation
okay.
where I cannot retort in any way, because if I say no, you need to text me more, basically I'm saying, like, you should drive and text.
And I go.
That's all I've got
And I go,
right now.
okay.
Okay.
Or sure. When I'm
Right.
being sincere, I say sure.
And
And I mean that from my heart.
autocorrect spells out shower.
Or
It's usually whore.
sure. Or sure.
Hole sometimes.
All right. You are left-handed. I'm
Yeah, dude,
My home.
I am.
I'm right-handed.
I
I'm
wish I
left-handed,
was.
but I wank with my right hand.
Huh. Fascinating.
strange.
Unless I want a
Always
stranger in
left-handed.
the shower, then I go lefty.
Yeah.
Lefty.
So
All
it's
right.
I like
Well,
that about. I think that's a very good quality in you.
That I wank right-handed?
Not at all. That
not
you're
that quality.
left-handed.
Yeah, the left-handed. My dad's left-handed. I find the way that they choose to write very
that's what I was
strange. My
gonna
father,
tell you.
he does this weird fucking spider crawl
Upside
across.
down?
Yeah, upside down, backwards spider crawls
That's
across
how-
the page.
My sister Donnie, who's a guest of the show, and my mom, they write upside down.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
It's like they go from bottom to top, not top to bottom. And it's
I'm
with
going to
the
reveal a
wrong
weird
hand.
secret.
It's amazing.
But I do remember being like in nursery school when I was a kid, and I remember them having to give the left-handed kids like scissors that were like green, and I always thought those were like the retarded children that needed special scissors.
Everyone did.
Did
they?
Yeah, we had special scissors
Yeah.
because the other ones wouldn't work. we had left-handed scissors.
And another thing is-
I was
Yeah.
like, shame, poor kids.
It's
boy.
funny when
Dude,
I
same
have
in
to-
America. Everyone thought we
Weird,
were
right?
retarded.
I won't sit by my sister when we go out to eat because I'm right-handed and she's left-handed, so we just sit there and
And-
elbow
Yeah.
bob the whole
No,
time.
I strategically try to
Makes sense.
always
Yeah.
get myself on the left side of the
I
table.
would never sit by her during dinner.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I really get that. That's probably a well worked out thing. And there's
Yeah.
so many children, you're probably like, all the rights here, all the lefts there, right? Mash them
And
up.
it took us
Next-
to be in our 30s to understand why we didn't want to sit by each other. And she's like, oh, this is why. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Now
so now
I
we
get
just play
it.
footsie.
Just switch
Well,
seats.
now I don't know if you're from a smart family. I'm backtracking.
She's the smartest
Unless
one, too.
50% of you were like, I get it. And then the other 50 were like,
And there's so
I
many
don't.
of us that 50% would be like a valid case study.
Well,
so
this is a study, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm no math fucking genius, but I think that would do it. Right. The next question was, or statement, you are a night owl. I think they're asking if you stay awake late.
when all the stupid people
Bummer.
go to bed,
I'm in bed, dude.
I can do my real thinking
I am always
now.
awake very, very late. I think that's when all the magic in the world happens. It's when like the other hemisphere goes to sleep and all the fish wake up on the other side of the world, or some weird shit happens at night.
And you were born in the month of
October.
perfect.
I don't know what that means.
I was just curious if she was a
I'm
Pisces.
a
I don't know.
Scorpion Libra mashup. I'm a cusp baby, man. The weird ones, yeah. That's some problem. You have blue eyes. I do not.
I do. I have blue
Nancy
eyes.
has the
I have
most
blue eyes.
beautiful blue eyes.
Thanks.
You do.
I have blue balls.
That's
And they're gorgeous,
stunning.
stunning,
They
Divine.
shine from
I
across
love
the
it.
room in a bar.
on the cusp.
On the cusp of the moon. All right. You are internet savvy.
Yeah,
well, he
no, I'll find
loves
any porn. It doesn't
You know what?
matter
I'll tell you what.
where
I
it is, I'll
believe
find
we're
it.
all in this room
He'll
very...
find porn on a dial-up telephone,
Oh, my God. That's probably a true thing.
a rotary telephone.
Yeah,
He'll find the
man.
porn.
I can get a porn video pull up on the first
With
ever
his
cell
left
phone
hand.
that only dials.
Beat that.
Wait, who wants to tell the story about how internet savvy the three of us are in this room?
Absolutely none of us. Well, we're
Maybe our
internet savvy. We're
waitress
not
tonight?
computer savvy.
That served us cocktails before the show.
No, we had to have
We had to
cocktails.
call it
That's a
quits
break
at one
because we couldn't
point,
figure
take a
out how to get the
break.
computer on. So you know what? I don't know if we can actually access that question. 17. You're skinny. That's a freaking
out.
weird one.
I'm out.
You're skinny. What do you mean?
I'm a
You're
thin.
back in.
I'm back in.
What is skinny? I mean, that's like
I don't
a
know.
weird.
I thought it was a really bitchy thing to say.
It is
too.
kind of. It's very like. I feel like that's not a word that it makes sense. It's
I
like
didn't-
you're either
I
thin,
I didn't know
overweight,
if it was like
this,
talking
that.
about the cast of Big Bang Theory. Like they're thin.
They
on that.
can't give words like you're skinny on a real research study. What the fuck is this list?
It came
honestly?
from Princeton. I'm just.
Princeton's full of it. No, this is you can't. Your skinny's not a.
Well, okay. I like all the questions except that one.
I'm out on skinny.
And the ones I left off the list. I didn't like those either.
Good. I'm glad you had the foresight to scrap them.
Some of them were about religion and politics,
Which we don't do that shit.
Not on this show.
Never.
Not in my house.
Not in this house.
Let's wrap this shit up.
All right.
Girl, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, my darling. It was really, really nice to be here.
Thank you so
Cool to
much.
shoot the shit with cool people, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. For
Thank
having
you. It
me.
was a pleasure, man. This was like the coolest thing I think I've ever done, man. Getting
Yeah,
to
no, I
talk
don't
with you and
think
listen
so.
to you. No, I'm serious.
mom.
It
Reevaluate
was
your
awesome.
laugh, young man.
Just use the force.
Pull your laugh together. Seriously.
This was a treat, and I think it was a treat for all our listeners too to get, because we bullshit and laugh and just tell shitty jokes for an hour, but this time it was like an actual.
But maybe no one's going to
We had a
listen
real
now 'cause they're
guest.
like, wait, we actually have to
Bullshit,
concentrate
this
on what
was
the fuck's
fun.
going on in
No,
this thing.
because I think this was awesome, man.
And this is proof that I have more friends than Kevin. So
True.
it is
call, dude.
true
Good
for
call.
me. Kevin's had so many friends on the show. I've had my
Does it prove
sister.
that I have any friends?
Yes, me and Kevin. We have 2 friends.
I'm all right. I'm done. Good.
And Kevin now has jungle fever, so everyone stay tuned. We're sorry, and thank you. We love you.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Tune in next week again. You can go back and listen to Socially Awkward for the episode that Nancy and I are on from this past Friday. Justine, again, a million times over, thank you so much for coming. Open door policy for you whenever you're in town. Come by the studio. We'll record as many hours as we want and you want with us.
It's a pleasure, Treasure.
Hi, this is Jeff from the 12A Podcast. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this show, please make sure to check out more on 4eyeradio.com.